Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Of course, honored to be with you. We want to begin first in Idaho, where today some of this testimony has centered around Lori Vallow Daybell's search histories. Joining us now to bring us all the current updates, Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter. Chanley, we know that you are still there in Boise, Idaho, where Ted Rollins has joined you. You've been in the courtroom. You've been watching this trial. Tell us, what is the latest coming out of that courtroom today?
It could be a big afternoon. In fact, they just restarted court for the lunch break. I believe Ted may be going up there because for the first time, we actually saw Summer Shiflett, the sister of Lori Vallow Daybell, inside the courtroom with some other family members. The first time they've appeared. Of course, Summer can be in there before she testifies because she was designated by the judge as the person representing victim Tylee Ryan in this case. So maybe she's going to be testifying this afternoon. So we have our eyes and ears, of course, inside and outside this courthouse for that big testimony. It could involve some more jailhouse phone calls, emotional jailhouse phone calls with Lori and her sister, Summer. But other than that, today's big focus has been digital trails left by Lori, Chad, and Alex Cox on the stand, currently resuming testimony. An FBI agent who's been going through the many cell phones, burner phones, Google accounts, Gmail accounts, internet searches of all three of the alleged co-conspirators. Here is, for example, what this jury has been seeing on PowerPoint. For Chad Daybell, some of his searches on Google has involved, starting back from October 2018 to November 28, 2019. At the beginning of 2019, we see him Googling Ned Schneider, Louisiana, his obituary there. We know Ned Schneider's the name that Lori gave her husband, Charles Vallow, the dark spirit that took over him. And then in March, he is searching the June 26th, Lori's birthday star sign. And then on May 4th, he's searching on Tammy Daybell's birthday, the sign of Leo and Taurus. Are they compatible? In May, he's searching malachite, eBay malachite jewelry. So not only Lori searching that, but also Chad. And then in June, Hiplos, the name of the other dark spirit that takes over Charles Vallow. And then in July, he searched when you surprise someone with accusations. And again, that is just a couple of days before Charles Vallow was shot to death in Arizona by Alex Cox. And then in September, this is what the jury focused on. Southwest wind. What direction of wind? And that is searched on a particular day. Authorities say September 8th. That Tylee Ryan was later killed that night and then burned the next morning. So they say it's suspicious that he's Googling the wind direction for the next day. And then he also researches Rhode Island area code. That's allegedly one of the area codes for his many burner phones. So this, again, this FBI agent, Nicole Heidemann, having to really pour through the 18 devices that were registered to Lori Vallow's Verizon account, and how many? 9 numbers associated with Chad Daybell, 6 with Lori, 6 for Alex Cox. Which ones were actually the ones of interest used the most, and then pinpointing them to the communications between all of them. It was proving to be quite complicated. So she's picking back up on that testimony right now, Ashley.
All right. I mean, those digital footprints for all of us can tell a very compelling story one way or another. Tell us, why I still have you, if you would, please, Chanley, about what stood out to you about any of the testimony that was offered by Detective David Stubbs.
Yeah, he resumed taking the stand earlier this morning. He was on the stand late Thursday afternoon before court recess for a long weekend. So again, he's offering some vital information as well. In his testimony, he actually showed this jury around 20 search warrant reports for electronic data, for phones, emails, for all three of the co-conspirators. Interesting, he talks about these 18 phones. You know, some were abandoned in the Rexburg apartment, just left there. About 10 devices were found in Hawaii when Lori was arrested. A lot of phones and devices here, but what stood out to me, this geofence location trace of the devices, he said he pinpointed the key dates where they believed Tylee and JJ were murdered, and they took a 250 feet radius around Chad Daybell's property, and guess what they found? There was only one device out of those 18 that had commonalities during these specific dates at that location, and that was Alex Cox, alleged co-conspirator here, the brother of Lori Vallow Daybell. He also talks about the burner phones that these 3 co-conspirators allegedly had, and he, again, pours through the Google data of Chad, but let's skip to Lori Vallow's search history because there were some key things that stood out. She's searching August 25th, 2019 for a malachite wedding ring. She actually pays $808 for those matching rings. And then in September, she searches possessed and how to remove a rear seat of my Jeep Wrangler. Again, that's around the time that they allege that Jeep Wrangler was driven for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux, one of the state's witnesses. And then finally, on October 2019, there was a search for wedding dresses. This is the day of Tammy Daybell's funeral. That, of course, stood out to these investigators. On cross-examination, though, of Detective Stubbs, I have to say the defense really did make it clear that in none of these, dozens and dozens of searches, Judge Ashley, did Lori ever really incriminate herself, nothing really direct tying her to the actual murders of her children or Tammy Daybell.
And of course, that's what we keep waiting for, that direct testimony tying her to those murders. We know Court TV has us covered there in Boise, Idaho. Thank you, Chanley. We're going to check in with you again next hour.